match between Oxford and Cambridge.
It's a try, surely the wind is down.
After the interval, Oxford had the advantage.
The Dark Blues have been widely tipped as easy winners. It certainly didn't work out that way.
What a try! That was one of the greatest we've seen in a Varsity match for years.
Good afternoon. Yes, the 137th Varsity match, and one of the most intriguing games in years as well in this fixture. Both sides have been desperate to play the underdog in the build-up. Cambridge have been referencing the big-name professionals in the Oxford ranks. You can see Don Wardock and George Robson, two of them. But Oxford, in turn, they point to a settled Cambridge team full of players used to winning this famous fixture. The Light Blues are going for a hat-trick of victories. And if they do that, it'll be the first time they've managed it in over a decade. Both teams have an identical record in the build-up to the game. It looks a really tough one to call. And as ever, handling the occasion, the do-or-die nature of the match will be crucial, because for all these players, their season will be defined by the next 80 minutes. Quick word from Brian Moore before we have the national anthems. Brian, what will be going through the players' mindset? For some, this is old hat, playing in the Varsity, playing at Twickenham. For others, a brand new experience.
Well, completely, but even those like George Robson and Dominic Waldock, who professional rugby experience, they will understand the history behind this fixture. They will understand what is at stake for those players who will not make rugby their careers, and they'll be caught up in that. But one of the things that always happens in this game is they try to play too quickly. They rush, they're frenetic, and it's the team that settles down earliest that usually gets the advantage. So you're looking for experienced players to give that element of control.
Yeah, the likes of Don Wardock in the picture there. Fantastic professional career for Wasps, winning the Heineken Cup in 2007. And now on the Newcastle books. The Sheriffs of Oxford and Cambridge going down the lines, wishing their teams luck. And the nerves must be jangling, and controlling that, Brian, is key, isn't it?
Yes, of course it is. And as in any rugby match, the quality of the ball produced by the forwards will be crucial. And in that, the Cambridge University back row ought to be influential. And then it's which pair of halfbacks manage to make the right decisions more often.
Time for God Save the Queen. Well, Dominic Wardock, the Oxford captain, not only does he pick the team, but also, by all accounts, a key man in the build-up, working on structures and game plan. Here are the teams then. Oxford's vice-like grip on the Varsity was loosened 2 years ago, but the Dark Blues have some big hitters in their ranks as they look to make amends. Lock George Robson played over 200 times for Harlequins. He won a premiership here in 2012. The aforementioned centre Waldock and captain, he's tasted success with Wasps in the Heineken Cup. He's on Newcastle's books. Fullback Ben Ransom had 6 seasons with Saracens. Cambridge may lack the star names, although captain Nick Costa has plenty of professional experience. They have a number of returning combinations, though. The spine of their team very similar to last year's. Chris Bell, the scrum half, he was man of the match in that game. He resumes his half-back pairing with Mike Phillips. Consistency in the centre as well, with Jake Hennessy returning, and Henry King switches from the wing to the centre. The referee needs no introduction. One of the best in the world, the Welshman Nigel Owens, refereed the World Cup final here in 2015. He's been given special permission by the European Cup authorities to referee this afternoon He's also in charge of Racing 92 against Leicester this weekend. Oxford playing from right to left, the Dark Blues get us underway, and it's Costa, the captain for Cambridge, who takes it in. And these opening exchanges will be fascinating. How do these players balance up the emotion of the occasion with keeping a cool head as Morris trucks around the corner for the Light Blues? Chris Bell with the first box kick towards George Tressida, another man with professional experience. Cambridge have won that aerial battle, although there was a knock-on. Nigel Owen signalling advantage. And Tressida will look to play away. Oxford,
Vantage over.
a little bit of space on this far side. Nice hand. Flanker Sam Miller involved there. Carried up by Pozniak over the 10-metre line for the Dark Blues. Tressida comes right, little kick through from Tom Humberston. That's nicely done. Bit of territory being played by Oxford, Brian Moore. Yes,
and Oxford might have made more of that had they not drifted and run slightly laterally when the overlap presented itself. It's a point that Tom Humberston and Dominic Waldock will have to address, because they are to make the most of when they have an advantage in numbers. Inside men need to be running straighter.
It's the experienced Australian Andrew Hunter who wins good line-out ball for Cambridge, and a penalty coming to the Light Blues as Oxford pull down the line-out. No advantage, says Nigel Owens.
And this is a sort of occasion, and one of very few, I think, where Nigel Owens will say that, not that he'll relax because he'll bring his usual professional high standards, but because it's of a slightly less pressured nature, he can take the occasion in a bit more than he would usually.
Cambridge head coach is James Shanahan, second spell as head coach for the Light Blues, and has masterminded the last two victories in this fixture. Huppets throws into the lineup, finds Jordan Eriksson, 21-year-old on his varsity debut. For a spell there for Cambridge at the back of the maul, just directing traffic. Very influential in this fixture last year was Bell, and again he box kicks. And a good competition in the air, and Cambridge have again won that little kicking battle. Jake Hennessy was there diving on at the number 12. Now Bell comes right. Phillips kicks for space. Back goes Ben Ransom, and there's that experience. Ransom, 6 seasons with Saracens. He's played at Twickenham loads of times, and he calls the mark.
Well, I recall Chris Bell's performance last year, and it was very good. But there, his service, too errant, fly half having to jump above his head, and therefore crucial transfer time wasted.
Well, Phillips feeds Costa. These two men will be influential, the fly half and the number 8. Phillips in his 4th varsity. Costa in his final game of rugby, the former Stormer, Bath and Bristol amongst his clubs. Bell to the left to Costa, who's going to carry a lot of ball leading from the front, the Cambridge skipper. William John Dean, the tight head at the back, but he leaves it to Bell. Phillips finds Hennessy. Baines, a little kick through, but again, Ransom's well positioned, and he finds his touch.
Well, Cambridge losing a bit of structure there, because when the ball was taken, the few options available to Chris Bell forwards weren't waiting to take the ball forward.
Stolen in the line-out by Oxford. Well, they look to attack from their own half. Big carry by Oxford number 7, Sam Miller. Part of the Wasps Academy back in the day, Miller, and now they work it to the right. Nice hands over to the far side. Dan Barley with a little bit of space. Big tackle coming in on Barley, but he retains possession. Big carry from Pozniak. And Miller again. It's the heart of the Cambridge defence. Nice break coming in from Stileman. Stileman almost through. But the first clean line break of this year's varsity. Costa's trying to steal. He does just that. Timely intervention from Nick Costa saves the day.
Costa. The break had been made. Cambridge were not in their usual defensive positions, having been breached. Had he not been able to effect what would have been a turnover, had he not hung on too long, and Cambridge would have been in trouble. That's great work there. By the way, do you know what social innovation is as a degree? I have no idea.
Yeah. There's a real mix of degrees, aren't there, here? From
well, there's a man there, you see,
astrophysics.
Yeah.
William John Dean for Cambridge.
Huppets was on his shoulder, but didn't look.
Send him on, then.
But line breaks at a premium in these fixtures, Brian, aren't they? They often can be quite tight and cagey, so you've got to make them count when you can.
They are, and as you saw with Stan, which is unusual for a player with his experience. Quite often players don't realise when you get into the open spaces, the duty is to look for support rather than just go as far and as quickly as you can.
Well, Oxford forced to make a change with Sven Kern coming up and Brian Jones coming on. Might only be temporary though, as Cambridge through Ericsson drive up.
Move, release, Blue, release! Have a breakdown, Bailey's got a ball!
Slowish ball for Bell, but a nice little ball. Stephen Leonard almost got through. Good quick ball for Cambridge. Hennessy feeds it on. Gatiss on the far side.
Back.
Just 18 years of age, Joey Gatiss. A good measured build-up from Cambridge. The back row carrying, Leonard again. Might be numbers here. Costa, what will he do? He switches with Hupats the hooker. Miller.
Lost!
Among those trying to turn over, there's George Robson looking to lend his weight and experience as well, but back on the Cambridge side, albeit slowly.
Stay back.
Bell comes left to William John Dean. Came off the bench at the end of the Varsity last year. That's Costa again. He's carried plenty of ball in the opening 7 minutes. Gatiss up from fullback. Runs into Posniak. Posniak trying to force the turnover, but still there for Chris Bell, the Cambridge 9.
Release, Blue, move!
Phillips deep to Hennessy. Hennessy sees half a gap and almost gets through, but shackled by Humberston.
Feet, play on!
Loose ball, Ericsson dives on it. Robson's in there again for Oxford, but still in Cambridge possession. Oxford counter-ruck, but illegally, says referee Nigel Owen. So penalty coming to the Light Blues. Bell kicks through for Hennessy, but no advantage.
Taking the 9
and a chance for the first point. You surely take the points, don't you, in
of course
this
you
kind
do.
of position?
Settle the nerves, get a reward, and you see a typical Varsity match penalty there.
No.
This fixture has never lacked commitment, and the physical nature of it's never been in doubt.
Yes, he took the 9 out. There wasn't counter-rucking, took the 9 out.
And although they didn't necessarily target the 9, the fact is ramming into the breakdown with such commitment and with not enough control leads to things like that.
A penalty for taking out Chris Bell. They were happy with the counter-rucking. Nigel Owens was happy, but the number 4 for
Receiver.
Oxford, Jasper Dix, took out the scrum half. And that's led to a penalty, which Mike Phillips is lining up. Scored a try in 2016. He's played in the 15, 16, 17 and now 18 Varsity matches. And he makes no mistake at all. And Cambridge lead 3-0.
And on the balance of play, that is probably just about deserved. Oxford did look reasonably comfortable in that defensive set, but credit to Cambridge for the patience through multiple phases.
Same way? Okay. Should they be behind you, please? Okay, I'm behind the line as well. Good.
Costa under it again. He has been incredibly prominent in the opening 10 minutes, Nick Costa, on his last game of rugby. And he's determined to make it count, it seems, as Cambridge drive on again to provide an angle for Chris Bell to clear his lines.
Hughes!
Try scorer last year in a man of the match display, the diminutive scrum half.
It's a good kick as well.
Yeah, the box kick has been on point so far from Cambridge. They've won 2 or 3 aerial battles and retain possession, and there might be numbers. Phillips, who just kicked the first points, he looks cross-field. Ransom is scampering back there for Oxford, slightly in two minds.
Stay blue.
And the clearance kick not wholly convincing, and it will be a line out to Cambridge in a good attacking position. But Oxford, Brian, have lost a couple of men early. Sven Kern is going off with blood, and we see another Oxford player lying prone in the backfield.
And let's hope he's okay. Doesn't look that good. Nigel Owens is going to let play go on.
Cambridge overthrow, so
that was a ball they needed as well. Man up effectively.
Yeah, strong attacking position for the light blues, but Eriksson just couldn't claim it, and now George Tressida will show what he can do box kicking wise, and that's another reasonable kick downfield, but Phillips does well to take play over the halfway line. Robson, the man making the tackle. All Cambridge the last few minutes.
Lost now.
And it's that man again, Costa. He's carrying an enormous amount of ball. Eriksson again, driven back. Robson in there once more.
Hughes.
Again, Bell pops it into the box, and it's another tester, and again it's been knocked forward. So the kicking battle being overwhelmingly dominated by the light blues, and they've got a scrum in a good set-piece position.
And you can see the very fine margins, both with the kicking game and the chasing game. The previous kick from Oxford was only a yard too long, but it allowed the Cambridge receiver to catch the ball, come down, and then evade the chaser.
And you call him then afterwards, the ruck will be over, okay?
Nearly every Cambridge kick has been contestable, and indeed the kickoffs from Oxford, the two that they've done have been indifferent. They've neither been very deep into the 22, nor have they been short enough for the chasers to try and win the ball back. Effectively free ball.
First scrum, lads, standards, please, okay?
Well, John Aaron Henry,
first scrum.
it was who's been forced off the field because of that collision. So Alistair King is on in the front row.
Height good, bind long, leg strong underneath.
First scrum of the game, Brian, I think?
Yes, and we'll see if it goes the usual way, where you can put the ball in exactly where you like.
Well, it was an interesting area in the Varsity last year, with Cambridge
Crouch.
absolutely dominating one scrum, which led to a crucial try for Chris Bell in the first half. Bell's back in that number 9 position and feeding the scrum. Oxford getting a decent shove on, but illegally so. They wheel it round, another penalty to Cambridge.
Drive square, running round. Back 5, running round.
Rob Andrew, Cambridge alumni. I was going to say Illuminati, that's the wrong word, isn't it? Might do in Rob's case, it might be right. So there, Jonathan Dixon, he says he was pushing square, and in fact, the Oxford tight head Joe Morris
up off the ground before I call the crouch. Okay. Otherwise, you're going to be causing instability in the scrum. Okay. So don't stay down till I call the crouch. Once you win, I want you up off the ground, and then crouch, I want you off the ground. Okay.
Joe Morris looked to be in a weak technical position, but he managed, when the shove came on, to dip his right shoulder, deflect all the movement, and therefore Dixon went outside him. And that's the easiest thing for a referee to spot.
So Phillips, who had a few wobbles from the tee in this fixture last year, kicked his first. Slightly trickier effort this. Again, the strike's a decent one. And he's nailed it. He's 2 from 2, Mike Phillips, and Cambridge have a little bit of a foothold. They lead by 6 points to nil at Twickenham.
They do, and 13.5 minutes gone with Oxford really not getting into the game. The possession they've had has been in their own territory. No real attacking platform thus far.
Yeah, yet to see the likes of Waldock and Ransom with ball in hand for Oxford. Here's Baines running it back and finding who else but Nick Costa for the light blues. And Bell finds his forwards, William John Dean, setting it up. And Bell will look to kick again. This one's slightly too far, and it will give a chance for Ransom to counter-attack. Good step from Ben Ransom. 6 seasons with Saracens, part of numerous Premiership-winning squads at Allianz Park. Parker for Oxford, hit hard in the tackle. But the Dark Blues with a bit of ball for the first time in a while. Miller in the middle of the field. Decent quick ball for Tressida to come right to Humberston. Waldock now throws a dummy and sets it up. Miller again with the carry. Manages to bust the gain line. Humberston's got Robson there as a decoy. Waldock out the back. Nice ball. Almost a nice ball. A bit loopy in the end to Stileman, who made the break earlier in this opening quarter of an hour. But good Cambridge set this, Brian, as Oxford being forced back behind the halfway line.
Move. It is, and it's not helped.
It was
the Oxford cause by, again, some of the running from the backs being lateral, too lateral. That's too far.
Tressida's kick taken in by Phillips. And he's overcooked that one. So Oxford will have a set-piece opportunity just outside the Cambridge 22. The kick going out on the full from Mike Phillips, and it will be an Oxford line-out.
Well, really the first time they've... Matthew Pinson. He would have been a good second row, maybe, with his extraordinary lung capacity. You know that he's got 15% bigger lungs than the average person.
No numbers.
Therefore, his VO2 max is huge.
You know, when you do kind of Olympian rugby 15s, he'll be running there, wouldn't he? Second row or number 8.
Well, him and Redgrave.
Well, second row pairing, surely. Well, this is what Ben Ryan was warning about, the Oxford catch and drive. They won it in the centre, and now they've got a decent platform, but forced to ground. Morris, it was in possession. But some priceless ball for Oxford in Cambridge territory. Big collision coming in on King. But it's high, says referee Owen. So Oxford will have a chance at points. Will they look to roll the dice with this advantage? Humberston wide to Ransom, who's up in the line. He almost slips through the tackle of Hennessy. Might be numbers here for Oxford. Kearns across to Barley. And referee Owen saying there was no advantage. Cambridge with a high tackle. So Oxford can either stick this into the corner or look to half the deficit.
Yep. Started just below and rode up.
Potential for a yellow card?
I don't think so. Although I do know some people in World Rugby who do.
Well, Oxford have shunned the opportunity at points. And they're looking to go back to that rolling maul, which brought them a little bit of success just now.
Well, if they are to be more effective, they need to be more clinical and accurate in the way they set the drive up. It's not how quick you drive it forward. It's being set properly before you move forward to get the stability to keep the drive going.
Well, Parker, the loose-headed, is throwing in, and it's taken by Robson. Good initial shove by Cambridge, but Oxford do have it safely in possession if they can work it away from the touchline. Pretty stout Cambridge defence at the moment. How well set are Oxford? They're peeling away. Starman's off his wing, sets it up. Tressida. Posniak the blind side. This is dangerous ball for Oxford. Robson on the carry around the corner, hit hard on the gain line. Good tackle coming in by Phillips for Cambridge, but still safely in Oxford possession as they look for their first points of the Varsity. Miller again, the open side for the Dark Blues. They've got plenty of numbers out here, Oxford. Waldock on a tight line, another advantage being played by referees. It's another high tackle as well.
Time out.
Let's listen to Nigel Owens.
That's the second high tackle I've had down here now. I didn't get the number, unfortunately, but there was a high tackle by one of your players, a second one, okay? If I see a third one, somebody may well be going to the bin. Have a word, get the tackles down, please.
Nigel Owens leaving Nick Costa in, no doubt. Costa bleeding for the the light blue cause. I wonder if in this kind of game, Brian, whether Nigel Owens might be a tiny bit more lenient on things like high tackles than he would in a Premiership or International.
And I'm sure if you interview him, he would say that he wasn't.
Ready? Okay? Okay, time on then. Thank you.
Yeah, another one. Not a bad one, but you see, you wonder when players know what the interpretations and the edicts that have gone out from World Rugby about this issue. They're well known now, they've been well prefaced. Not a question of being caught off balance there and, you know, grabbing with someone stepping inside you. He chooses where he wants to make that tackle.
Yeah, Jordan Eriksson, the guilty party there for Cambridge. Here's Tom Humberston, his first kick of the match, to put Oxford on the board in the Varsity, and it sneaks inside.
Well, Oxford do come away with some points in their first effective campaign into Cambridge territory. That will settle them.
He's going left or right?
Very little in the game so far.
Behind the line as well, please. Good.
Starman under it for Oxford. Fourth Varsity match for Tom Starman. A try-scoring machine for the Dark Blues, but not in this fixture. He's played 4 times now and yet to score, and he would dearly love to break his Varsity duck this afternoon, no doubt. But a real threat with ball in hand is Tom Starman, and his scrum half Tressida played a couple of Premiership matches for Leicester Tigers a few years back, the 24-year-old, on his Varsity debut. Costa.
Ball is
Oxford
out.
trying to bring some physicality at the breakdowns. Cambridge secure possession, but it's been ripped now.
Ripped before.
And gleefully dived on by King for Oxford. So Dark Blues just turning the momentum ever so slightly in the last few minutes. Cambridge man not rolling. That's an easy one for Nigel Owens. Huppert's the hooker. And Oxford with a shot to nothing kick. Penalty for not rolling away. Huppert's for Cambridge, and Oxford have the chance to drive back into Cambridge territory.
None of that.
Could well have been turned over there had there been more defenders in the group tackle there. The thing for Oxford here is one or the other, either get it off the top or make sure when it goes forward that if you're going to deliver it at some point, it is actually when you're making
if they're coming in late
progress.
And you don't have time for the numbers, it'll be play on. If you have time, get the numbers.
Well, the opening 21 minutes suggest it's going to be a typically tight tussle in the Varsity. As Parker...
Oh dear, that's 2-3 yards.
Finds his man in the line out, if a little bit dubious, but this is the best position Oxford have had with the rolling ball, and they're making metres, and they're driving through.
Yeah, penalty.
Humberston. Kearns, who captained the side from 10 last season. That's a good carry from the outside centre. And Oxford are in the shadow of the Cambridge post, and they've got numbers to the left. Humberston throws a dummy in, a man outside, but didn't use sticks. Only a metre or so out, though, Oxford, looking for the first try of the Varsity. They come to Waldock. Waldock's well tackled. Is he held up? I think he might have been. Yes, scrum 5, Oxford.
Well, Waldock deciding to take an improbable line, given that there's only one supporting player outside him.
Sorry, tell me again, Claire.
Good last-ditch effort there.
At the last scrum.
Especially by Humberston.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Don Waldock, who is captaining the side today, but also he selects the team. I'm told he shapes the game plan and works closely with James Wade. And Oxford have also been boosted by having Richard Wigglesworth in their coaching ranks, the Saracens in England's scrum half, especially focusing on scrum half play and box kicking.
Drive square.
Will that be able to make that little bit of difference
Not like the last
you often need in this fixture?
You run around looking for the penalty. Drive square, That's the only time you'll get rewarded.
As Nigel Owens
No, he wasn't
gives the
going in.
Oxford
You were out and round. Stay
front row a
square.
lecture about
If he boards
staying
in,
square.
I will deal with it, okay?
And surely here you don't take any chances. If you're Oxford, you
okay,
make sure
right?
you're squeaky clean, only 5
told him to
metres
stay
out
out.
from the opposition line.
Well, you would think
Sure
so. I mean, the
stay
important
square,
thing
please, okay?
is the
Good
stability
man.
after the
Yeah,
engagement.
that's what I told him.
Nigel Owens delivering a
Relax, please.
straightforward lecture to the Oxford front row to stay square.
Keep the space. Listen to my calls. Nothing moves till the ball comes in. Seconds in, please. And come up when I call the crouch. Up when I call the crouch. Crouch. Bind. Set. Hold it there.
Trester
Keep it up.
instructed
Keep
to
it up.
feed by referee Owens. The Oxford fans want a heave, and that's a solid looking dark blue scrum. Are they looking to drive it on? Now Tressida comes away with it. Out the back to Stileman, who's up to the line, but just short. He reaches, does he score? No. Couldn't be closer. As Oxford come left and knock the ball on with the try line begging. Oh, what an opportunity for Oxford. First through Stileman as he wriggled up to the line. And then, as they came left,
I don't think Joe Morris realised the ball was coming to him. Thought it was going to be for Robson.
Perfect. The ball came out the back. Time out.
They did good work to retrieve that. Okay. Robson was a natural receiver there.
They stood up. No, they didn't know. They were still down. The ball had gone out before then.
last-ditch tackle coming in by Henry King.
Tremendous commitment.
Yes, sir. But there's no need to call me sir. I'm from West Wales. Thank you.
First Nigel Owens quick with the Varsity.
They're not called sir in West Wales.
No need to call me sir, I'm from West Wales, is the instruction from Nigel Owens.
Last one was good, same this time.
We spoke this week, didn't he, about the honour of refereeing this fixture. He's been there and done it in refereeing terms. World Cup final here in 2015, arguably the highlight, but
possibly the closest you get to either institution, to be honest.
Excellent, same again. The pressure off. Seconds, up a bit quicker, please.
Pressure on the Cambridge scrum.
Come on, sir. Stay there.
There wasn't, you saw from the strike from Oxford, it wasn't really a strike, it was just a tap. There's no real option to go from the back row because he got stuck in the second row. They had to effectively go for the drive.
Middle. Yeah. Crouch. Bind. Two of you. Keep the pressure off.
Well, Jonathan Dixon, you can see the loose head for Oxford. Quite a bit taller than his opposite number. But he's got to get lower before the engagement. Because if he allows the Cambridge tight-head William Ding to get under him, then it's in a very poor position anatomically.
Bind. Set.
Well, can Cambridge manage to survive this Oxford onslaught? There's the big scrum, it's a free kick. Looks like an early shove from Oxford, that desperation to try and put the pressure on Cambridge's own line.
Well, if it was early...
If you try to pull him in again and look for the penalty, I'm going to be penalising you. Sir. Is that clear? Yes, sir. Thank you.
Well, what he's saying there is that Morris is trying to pull his opposite number in early before the engagement. Call.
But a good clearance kick from Cambridge. It was a free kick, so they won't get the throw in at the line out, but they're out of trouble, and they've made 50-odd metres, and Oxford didn't have anything to show from that concerted spell of pressure as Ben Parker, the loose head, prepares to throw into the line out, just going through the move with Alistair King, who's come on as a replacement for Henry. Overthrown again, and Cambridge buoyed, no doubt, by the last few minutes' defence, and a clever little kick coming in from Bell. Ransom waits for it to bounce once or twice. Bell's up there to make the tackle, but there's Ransom's class evading a couple of chasers.
Did very well, Ransom, there.
Now it's Oxford on the back foot in their own 22, but in possession. Through George Tressida, the scrum half. And he sends that into the box, and that looks perfectly weighted. But well taken by Phillips, who's kicked a couple of goals for Cambridge. And prospering in the backfield. Carried round the corner by Charlie McCallum for Cambridge. Now Costa in the midfield. Bit of space potentially for King, the outside centre. Cambridge looking to build a bit of attack through Bell. He comes left to Eriksson, the big second row. All 6'6" off him on his Varsity debut. Costa again, who's been a force of nature in this opening half an hour. Might be a little bit of space here for Cambridge, and King up in the line is Gators. Gators, good tackle coming in. Starman takes the youngster into touch.
Well, you volunteered the word youngster, and experience showed there.
Outside.
Needed to understand his line of running there. It was naturally going to take him into touch. Very easy tackle line.
He may have wanted Elliot Baines to come on an inside line, but either way, Gators running out of space, and Stileman on his fourth Varsity making an accomplished tackle. But Oxford again operating around their own 22, and their line out is creaking. Despite having the likes of Robson in there, they've not managed to secure their last few cleanly, but they at least do a possession of the ball through scrum half Tressida. Cambridge will want to keep Oxford down in this part of the pitch. They have the 3-point lead, the Light Blues, as they look for a hat-trick of Varsities.
Hughes! Stay behind.
And this time Tressida looks more for touch than for a box kick that could be contestable, but it gives Cambridge a line out 30-odd metres out.
Well, the two sides Cambridge have effectively carried better, principally because of Nick Costa, but not only him.
Well, both sides
having trouble here.
Both sides struggling to win clean line-out ball, but Cambridge just about regain it through their forwards. Now Bell finds their carriers, and yeah, as you say, Brian, they are making dents in the midfield. Now right comes Hennessy, looking to stand up Starman, but he slips. And Starman's looking to turn that ball over.
Turnover's fair, turnover's fair.
And referee Nigel Owens happy it was done fairly. And Oxford, through King, set the ball up. Well, they look to counter-attack the Dark Blues. They've got the firepower out wide. But Tressida may look to play a bit of territory. Eriksson almost got to that one, but it's cleared by Tressida. That's a nice box kick, and it means that Starman can take Phillips into touch.
And kicks are only as good as the chase that follows. That was made into a good kick.
Don't try
also timing it well,
please, okay?
Make sure he didn't interfere with the man while he was in the air. But that came from a line which was run by Cambridge, well, the Cambridge fullback again, which was never on because it took him to the blind side, where the blindside winger had vacated, so it was effectively no support, and from there he got turned over.
With the kind of box kick there from Tressida that Wigglesworth himself, who's been coaching Oxford, would have been proud of. One of the best in the world at that art is Richard Wigglesworth. But Oxford have again lost line-out ball, giving Cambridge possession.
Move! Gone.
Waldock urged to move, and just in time he does that. Andrew Hunter, the Australian. And Bell, just like last year, is looking to control the pace of things for Cambridge. Nice offload. Eriksson goes storming away. And he tried one too many, potentially. It's loose, but it's still in Cambridge possession through Hennessy. Oxford looking to steal. But Cambridge almost up to the 22, thanks to the bust from Eriksson. Now McCallum with another decent carry. These Cambridge forwards making dents. Bell dummies and then again finds that man Eriksson, but the offload again is loose, but it came forward off a dark blue hand.
Knock on advantage.
So only a scrum advantage, but still an advantage that Cambridge aren't able to use. So we'll come back for the scrum to the light blues from that knock-on.
Well, I think Nigel Owen's been quite generous there. I mean, effectively, the advantage from a knock-on is supposed to put you in the position that you would have been made. They had a free play there.
Time out, yeah.
This is a good offload. You see, that one is, when you say it's a good offload, it was certain because he had the ball in two hands. He could see the man. The one that was spilt later on is back on the back of the hand. He just sees a flash.
And then you call men in over that ball.
You know, in his peripheral vision, thinks, yeah, he's out one of our players, without knowing who's around him, without knowing what line he's on, without having the mechanism to deliver the ball exactly where he wants to. And on that occasion, a bit more experience, and he'll understand this is the one not to give, this is the one to go to ground with and recycle. Because once you've made the break and the defence is effectively turned, you've got the advantage anyway. Don't need to seed it by making an improbable... Well, they always say the 50-50, and they're not, because they never work, so they can't be.
Yeah, 1090s. George Robson was getting some treatment, the Oxford second row. He estimates that he's played between 15 and 20 times here at Twickenham. 7 big games for Harlequins, Premiership finals as well in 2012.
Keep the space, please, lads.
And 2 of those games were the most boring I've seen in years.
He didn't mention that. He didn't mention that bit.
No, he wouldn't do it.
But he's got
what's effectively
a lot of
happening
experience
here. Oxford are struggling to get good first phase possession. They've given a couple of penalties away at the scrum. They've given seeded ball at the lineouts, and Cambridge have been more solid, and their forwards have been carrying better.
Yeah, good platform this for the light blues from a solid scrum. And again, Hennessy, England's 7s player, Jake Hennessy. Now they carry again the Cambridge back row. Good quick ball. William John Dean, the astrophysics student, on his second varsity. It's another advantage this time, bang in front of the post. And they tap and go through Bell, and Bell is caught potentially illegally. Yes, another penalty advantage being played by referee Nigel Owens. What an opportunity this is for Cambridge. Little kick through from Phillips.
No.
Oh, I think he just ran out of play.
No, he didn't get it.
Elliot Baines, they're celebrating. They're celebrating. Baines thinks he's got there, Brian.
I don't think so.
No advantage, no try.
And so already it's been called no try. So Nigel Owens not messing around. He's been around the block. He's not a level 5 referee that the players can hoodwink.
So the honourable thing about not claiming a try and be a gentleman when you know you haven't scored doesn't apply here. I wonder if his college board will have a word with him.
The decisions here, Brian, for Cambridge, because Bell turned down a kick at goal to force the tempo up, the tempo.
On 10 only.
So actually it's now a harder kick if they go for it, because it's further to the right.
Well, I would think that they will put this to a corner. No, they're going to go for post. Well, he's
he tapped and went
so
straight
far
into the guy who was standing there who couldn't do nothing.
And actually, even if he kicks this, it's not the return that they would have been looking for.
So not cynical on the penalty only on this occasion.
How close was he then?
Elliot Baines. Close, but it wasn't one.
Oof. That's a good effort.
No, it's lost control.
Touch the line, lads. It is close.
Well, look, he doesn't have to. Well, funny enough, he doesn't have to have control when the ball is kicked through. All he has to have is downward pressure, which means effectively touching the ball.
Well, James Shanahan maybe wanted it to be checked.
Behind the try line.
But if it's on the line,
it's no try.
It's no try.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it was a try, but it was closer than I think we all thought, referee Nigel Owens included, because if he saw that again, he may have checked it. But either way, no try, rightfully given. And Phillips making no mistake today. He's 3 from 3, and he's extended Cambridge's lead.
And actually, while they've got a 6-point lead, it's not quite a converted try. They have been the better side, not by a huge margin, but definitely so. And I think Oxford will consider that, although at the moment, and they might go in 6 points down, that's not as bad as it could have been.
Cambridge certainly will feel happier about life. They've been far more ruthless when in Oxford territory. Starman was onto that one, but he knocked on. And it's a nice embrace from two veterans of this fixture, Jake Hennessy and Tom Starman.
Will be interesting to see what happens in the last 20 of this game, because the players, although they are very fit and they're young, etc., they will tire. And the frenetic exchanges where people are being stopped on the gain line, that will start to fall away later on.
If I say use it, then it goes, okay?
Yeah, and it's whether the coaches, James Wade for Oxford and James Shanahan for Cambridge, might look to be proactive with their replacements. Sometimes in this fixture, that's not always the case. The replacements come on in the event of injury, or sometimes not at all.
Hold it steady.
But it promises to be tight on the evidence of the opening 35 minutes. But the Cambridge scrum has been solid. It means that Hennessy can set play up. Big carry coming in by Leonard for the Light Blues, and he'll give a platform for Bell to kick. And his box kicking has been completely and utterly on point today. It's another contestable. This one's well taken by Ransom. That was
again, Ransom has done very, very well with a high ball.
Now good ball for the Dark Blues, and Joe Morris trucks it up. Humberston to Waldock, looks inside to Starman, who's looking for work off his left wing, chopped down around the 10-metre line. Ransom's up in the line now, the fullback. 26-year-old, former England under-20, played in the 2011 Junior World Championship with the likes of Owen Farrell, did Ben Ransom. His opposite number that day was Bowden Barrett. Now here's Waldock, almost intercepted by Baines, but he knocked on in the process.
Trying to go for the catch.
And if that had gone to an Oxford player, they could have been in.
Knock on only.
Conversely, if Baines had kept hold of it, he could have gone the length as well.
Well, you've got to be impressed by Cambridge's
nearly got it. Knock on only.
Defensive sets, because Oxford not making the ground through the initial contact, being forced wide. But again, if you watch the patterns of running and from where we are viewing this game, they're easier to see. Sure, when Dom Waldock looks at the tape afterwards, he will see that too many times when the deep ball comes, not one man is even running a straight line, even as a decoy. And as long as that happens, the defences are allowed to just drift across,
crouch,
slide out. Tackling becomes much easier.
Set. Hold it there, please. Keep it up.
Oh, penalty to Cambridge, who are starting to dominate this scrum battle. That was on the Oxford pudding as well. And the body language from the Light Blues tells you they feel they've got the edge in that area.
Yeah, it's been given against Joe Morris. But who's doing the damage in this scrum is William Dean, the Cambridge tight. He's got right inside the substitute prop, Jonathan Dixon, effectively wrecks any chance of the effort being put through square.
Missed touch though by Cambridge. They do eventually get the line out, but a good 20-30 metres or so away from where they would have wanted it.
Get the legs underneath you stronger. You went straight to ground, okay?
And although Jonathan Dixon will complain that... Sorry, or not... Alistair King, sorry, Alistair King will complain that the tight head Dean is being given too much latitude by Nigel Owens. It's only a penalty if you get caught. Well,
did that go out on the full, or did it just bounce inside? The kick from Tressida. Very, very close, but it looks like it was judged to perfection by the Oxford 9. Yeah, that looks okay. He saw some space. And just inside. Couldn't be much closer. Cambridge win the line out, albeit scrappily.
Backwards, play on, backwards,
and it's in Oxford possession now.
Yeah, stay.
So a good territorial gain for the Dark Blues. As Sam Miller drives it on. Tressida to Humberstone. Deep now to Ransom, who's looking to go outside, and he does. Beautifully done from Ransom. And into the corner goes Barley. And that's a little sign of the class in this Oxford backline, made by Ransom, and Barley's superb finish.
Well, the clearest chance of the game for either side. Well worked, well finished. Again, set-piece problems.
Cheers.
You watch the two runners there with straightening.
A fair contest for the ball. Trying to go for
Fixes
the
the
ball. Thank you.
inside defence. They can't drift. See the two men coming on the shoulder. It's a nice step as well.
Count me down 10 seconds, and please, okay?
Yeah, turned a 2-on-2 into a 2-on-1 did Ransom. Barley's score.
Thank you.
And this for the lead.
And Oxford have threatened to do that a couple of times, but couldn't do it because of the angles of the run, where the two... Yes!
Oh, beautifully done from Humberston. And right at the end of the half, Oxford snatched the lead. Cambridge would have been happy about life at 9-3. But a ruthless score from Oxford.
I think Oxford will be very, very pleased by that. On the balance of play, they don't deserve to be in front, actually. That was a one moment of magic. As it resulted in the only try, they will say, hey, we are the people who are entertaining. I think Cambridge will be unhappy that they conceded just before half-time and effectively lost that lead, because for 35 minutes they were comfortably the better side.
Yeah, really well set up for the second half. Oxford 10, Cambridge 9 half-time.
Well, just when we were going through the record books to see when was the last tryless Varsity match, we get a score in the when it's in the red zone, really. So we'll talk about that in just a moment or so. Generally, though, we said it was going to be close, and it is just that.
It is. There's been parity of possession, but we talked about off-air. You know, first phase stuff, line-outs. Every team, Cambridge keep losing theirs, Oxford keep losing theirs. So at half-time, they're going to need to gather around, sort themselves out, because if either side gets primary possession, they can build some momentum. They look like they're comfortable on the ball.
Well, in advance, we were saying two university sides, Nigel Owens refereeing, it's going to be a try-fest. So why isn't it like that?
Well, I think as ever with Varsity match, it's so attritional. It's trying to get that upper dominance in the opening minutes. And really, you know, I think Oxford have gone through some great phases of possession and play. Cambridge similarly, very evenly balanced. Obviously, the try at the end has really thrown the game wide open. But Cambridge would have been pleased up to 35 minutes of that game. They really had hung in there and actually started to grind down this Oxford pack.
I suppose it was symptomatic, actually, of that first 40 minutes that the try at the end came from a shabby line-out.
It did, and we've seen half a dozen of those in the first half. But the turnover, it was executed pretty well. They played to space, and it was a nice finish. You know, the guy on the other side of the field, Tom Starman's, had a wonderful first half. He's touched the ball a lot, but it was his opposite man, number 14, and Barley goes over to just give them that edge. Not sure if they deserve it, but they were ahead at half-time.
How did they manage to get that extra man? Was it just a missed tackle?
Well, I think Ben Ransom, we didn't talk about it at the beginning. I mean, again, a man with professional experience at Saracens and London Irish. He beautiful bit of footwork, created 2-on-1, and Dan Barley scorches him for the try.
Ben?
Yeah, as you can see here, like the ball was turned over. They've quickly got a little bit, recovered some depth. First receiver's got a few options. He carries it through. Quick ruck ball for a change. It's been a little bit slow from the Dark Blues, and now they start to engineer some space. Nice little pass out the back, and then frees up Barley, who has a bit of work to do here, doesn't he? Hoppers, you probably would have finished that one off.
I'd probably be in touch about 10 yards before the line, actually.
One of your knees probably given up by then.
but this is a good pass, and you'd say it's 2-on-2 there, and then it becomes 2-on-1 very quickly.
Yeah, and actually it was a gorgeous angle that Ben Ransom took and created the outside space. Good timing of the pass. I mean, you know, real textbook classic, very, you know, good skills, executed under pressure, and just a good turn of pace from Ransom. Evades the tackle, and then 2-on-1. And as Ben said, Dan Barley had a lot to get through, but really pinned his ears back and gets in for a well-deserved score.
And Chris actually mentioned in commentary that Ben Ransom played in that Under-20 World Cup final, 6 or 7 years ago, against the likes of Bowden Barrett and people like that. So he's got a rich rugby pedigree. Now, whatever level you're talking about, at the top end anyway, there's always a great debate about referees making an instant decision about whether it's a try or no try. And Nigel Owens was in absolutely no doubt that Cambridge didn't score down in the far corner there. But I must admit, when we looked at the replay initially, we thought, oh my Lord, maybe he made a mistake here. But he was right, wasn't he?
Nigel's always right. Right. But no, it was a good decision, and it was very, very close. But Nigel, I think with all his experience, realised it was just back for the penalty and the try wasn't scored.
Yeah, we can see the ball here, but Cambridge gets some really good possession here, deep in Oxford territory. The ball gets recycled, and then they push the ball wide. Little chip, and as we can see there, overly celebrating a non-try. I hate that when that happens. but Nigel got that spot on, and it was, you know, it looks a lot closer in slow-mo, but it shows you, the quality of Nigel. He backed his decision, and Cambridge go into the changing, just a point down here, but this was probably their best chance of the game. Here we go. It's a decent effort. He needed slightly longer arms, which...
It is worth saying as well, of course, grounding the ball on the line, the ball is out, so that's the end of it. Oxford almost scored right in front of us here when Don Waldock was held up, and that was an interesting passage of play, because at that point it looked as though Cambridge were going to certainly go into half-time with a lead, because the consequence of him being held up ended up being a scrum where it seemed as though Oxford had really had the nudge on Cambridge, and yet the penalty was given the other way. So talk us through this, Ben.
Well, here we go, and they've gone to the left here. Waldock decides to take it up himself, just gets held up here, and then as he comes back there, I can kind of see what he's doing. We're right by the pitch side. His opposite man on the blindside wing for Cambridge was just pushing across, and so Dominic decided to take him on. It didn't quite work out. And from the ensuing scrum here, again, they're just a little bit short. I thought Nine could have had a crack here, actually, but he decides to throw it into a... Well, he wasn't quite sure who it was going to there, Damien.
And I think that does sum up some of the Oxford's play. Quite a lot of unforced errors, and again, the commentators were talking about there was some good, groundwork played and good bust made by the Cambridge forwards. But again, a strong Oxford scrummage, but just pushing too early, as Nigel Owens has said, and it's another free kick to Cambridge to clear their lines.
One or two players have had a tremendous first 40 minutes. Stileman on the Oxford wing has touched the ball, I think, more than some wingers. They've played an entire career at Twickenham, not touched the ball as often as he had. What about the Cambridge captain in his final match? He's been very influential at the back of the scrum.
Yeah, and Nick Costa, what a talisman. You can see actually when he starts to go forward with Chris Bell at the half-back, he's absolutely critical to how Cambridge are playing. And I think when he's got his hands on the ball, he's such a powerful force. And actually the first up tackling from both sides has been impressive. But certainly Nick Costa, in his last ever game of rugby, is leading from the front.
Yeah, you can see in the stoppages in play, he's trying his best. Look at this turnover here. Gets over the ball in a really strong position. A couple of dark blues try to wrestle him off it. But that was a really important win there at the breakdown. And again, travelling hard, carrying hard. He's probably, he's had probably the most touches for the light blues. Starman on the left wing for Oxford, and they're going to have to keep carrying on with that and getting some good first phase. Again, good leg drive, good momentum, and good work there by the back row.
Okay, well, the Dark Blues then have a single-point lead at half-time in the men's match. Earlier on today, it was a light blue victory, and Sarah Orchard is going to talk about that now.
Yes, thank you so much, John. It really was one of the best women's varsities we were treated to a little bit earlier today. As you say, it was a Cambridge victory. I'm now joined by Kate Marks, the victorious captain for Cambridge, and also Abby de Cruz from Oxford. So first of all, Kate, you've done so well in your university league this year, but the wins when they're at Twickenham in the varsity, all the more sweeter?
Yeah, absolutely. It's an incredible place to play, and to get the victory as well, it makes it extra special. We knew we were coming in off the back of a great run. We're top of our Bucks League at the moment, and we knew what victory tasted like. But actually, in a 30th anniversary year, to come here and to make it happen at Twickenham Stadium, it's incredibly special.
We have to ask you about Sophie Farrant. She went off with quite a knock early on. How is she now? We saw her come out in crutches.
Yes, Sophie Farrant is back up on her feet. She has taken a knock to her cruciate ligament, but obviously as a team we will now support her and get her back on the pitch as soon as possible.
And just lastly, how much of a platform is this for players to go on? We know the likes of Alice Middleton, a former captain of yours, she's now playing for Bristol Bears in the Tyrrell's Premier 15, so it's a real opportunity for women to use this to go forward.
Yeah, absolutely. We like to think we provide a platform. We had our first international, Samantha Graham, go on to play sevens for England quite recently. Alice Middleton is another who's gone on to play Premiership rugby, so we hope it really is something that the girls can kick on and really use it as a platform to push on with their own rugby careers.
And Abby, just quickly, I know frustration for you today, another light blue day, hopefully could be your year next year?
Yeah, definitely, and I think obviously credit to Cambridge, they hung on, but I think really it's credit to both teams. It's definitely an advert for women's rugby, a cracking match. I think it's testament to, how close it was, that just in those final minutes, the crowd was up, it could have gone either way. So I think, credit to the girls. There's a lot of former dark blues here, should be very proud.
Thank you so much to both of you. Enjoy that. Apparently it has been drunk out of a little bit earlier, John, but all the women out watching now, back to you.
Well, they've been playing Slade's Merry Christmas, everybody, over the tannoy here at Twickenham, which means, obviously, December the 25th is not that far away, and that means that very shortly after that, it's another Six Nations, and what a Six Nations it promises to be in World Cup year. And the very first match is a Friday night at Stade de France, France against Wales. That's on the 1st of February. Then we're at Murrayfield for Scotland, Italy the day after that, and then Rugby Special returns on the Sunday to review all the matches of that opening weekend. We're keeping the sporting theme going here on BBC Two this afternoon. We're back to the UK Championship Snooker from 5 o'clock. And on Sunday week, it is Sports Personality of the Year in Birmingham. There are still just a few tickets, literally just a few left. So book now to avoid disappointment. If you go to bbc.co.uk/sports personality, you can be there with us. Well, it hasn't been the most free-flowing game, but as is always the way with these things, as people get tired, space starts to appear. So if that does happen, who does that benefit, Damien?
Well, for me, the Oxford backs have looked more dangerous. I think Don Morlock's had a central role, as we talked about at the beginning, and Starman has been outstanding on the left wing. Ransom, we saw his skill recently was very, very good. So I think this would suit Oxford if the game opens up a little bit more in the second half.
Yeah, no, look, I echo that as well. I think they've got some lovely backs in the dark blues, but Cambridge are playing well as a team, and they look like with Nick Costa, I think they're driving forward. So it's going to be an interesting 40 minutes, and possession is going to be the key.
You made the point at the start of our chat at half-time about the result being everything here. This is not about entertaining, it's not about performance, it's about winning. And for players for whom this is the biggest stage that they will ever have in their rugby career, in the last 15 minutes or so, how important is it for them to not freeze? If they're 10-9 up, for instance, to still play rather than just say, I've got to be very conservative, very pragmatic, and not do what actually is happening in front of me.
It's interesting, you look at the age profiles of both sides. Oxford have got a lot older players, and I sometimes think the sort of exuberance of youth, and thinking back to when we were that young a long, long time ago, you actually just want to go out and play and enjoy it and make the most of this occasion. And I hope that's what both teams do, and they don't actually freeze and think, gosh, we have to win at all costs.
But when you look at the scoreboard, you're thinking, hey, it's 10 minutes to go, there's only 1 point in it. The temptation then to sort of completely go into your shell is huge, isn't it?
It is, but I think once you're on the field, your somatic anxiety has left you. You're getting on with it. You're hoping that you can learn from the experience of what's happened in the season, in the build-up, and under pressure, they get things right. Let's hope that happens this afternoon.
I mean, this is a bit like sort of discussing Brexit with two Remainers, but nonetheless, how do you think this is going to pan out?
I think it's going to be a hell of a second half. I think really interesting to see whether the sides will change their tactics at half-time. But for me, if Cambridge can keep possession, keep that back row involved as they have been, I think they stand a very good chance against a very strong Oxford backline.
If they can shackle that Oxford black backline, then Cambridge will win.
OK, let's go back to our commentary team, Brian Moore and Chris Jones.
Thanks, John. Yeah, Cambridge out first, trailing by just the single point. Oxford following them. The dark blues playing from left to right, and the light blues, Cambridge, playing from right to left. Mike Phillips having a little chat to Nigel Owens. They decide which way he's going to kick. Big 40 in the rugby careers of many of these players. As Stileman, mentioned at half-time by Damien Hopley and Ben Ryan as a constant force for Oxford, he takes the kick-off. And now Oxford drive through Pozniak. Nightfall descends in southwest London. The floodlights on here at Twickenham as Tressida kicks. Back is the indefatigable Costa, who made a host of carries in the opening part of that first half. He sets it up for his scrum half Bell. Looking down the short side, Cambridge. Ball back inside to Leonard, former Wales under-16 international, the medical student. Crossfield goes, Phillips. Tester for try scorer Barley. Oh, it's just coming back on the Oxford side. Ransom needs to save the day, and he does. Fantastically well, Ransom. And a couple of times, Brian, he has taken Oxford out of real trouble.
Well, that's the third time, actually, where he's seemingly been pinned down. Not only has he evaded the first attempted tackle, he's then made ground. Completely changes the support dynamics.
Again, though, Cambridge getting a bit of joy from that kicking game. This time, Phillips looking crossfield, and now Tressida clears. Phillips is in the backfield. Will he link with Gators? No, he kicks.
Stay, boys.
Is this well judged? No, it's not. It's out on the full. And Oxford will have the possession. And the line out just inside the Cambridge half as Phillips makes a rare mistake.
Well, it wasn't a bad option because there was space there.
Numbers, 2 pods.
Just a foot wrong.
So we're saying off air at half-time, Brian, you feel if Oxford can get their line out sorted, it's going to be...
The backs are certainly more threatening.
They do just about retain possession, but nowhere near as securely as the Oxford coaches would have wanted. All that man, George Robson, the former Harlequin, Premiership winner here in 2012, Robson. 200-plus appearances for Harlequins in a stellar professional career. Now he's trying to add a winning varsity to his CV as he studies for an MBA, the first of a 2-year course. Tressida pops it downfield. Oh, and it's dropped. It's dropped by Cambridge.
Is that an offside?
And it could be offside. Yep, you called it, Brian. Nigel Owen's not going to miss that. And Joe Story, his knock-on. Cambridge playing it way offside. And now Oxford have an opportunity either to extend their lead or to try and go for the Cambridge jugular and kick it into the corner.
By blue, in front.
They are going for the corner, turning down points and sticking it to only 5 or 6 metres out.
Well, it would have been quite a difficult kick, actually, from the wrong side.
You can't come into the line
just
out
takes his eye off at
and
the
not give him a chance for
crucial
numbers.
moment.
You come in late and slow, and there's no numbers.
Well, one of the assistant referees is Claire Daniels on this side, and actually it wasn't 5 or 6 metres as I first thought, more like 10 or 12. But either way, good platform for Oxford, and this time they do win the line out, and they can set up the maul. And they can try and put Cambridge under pressure, and Miller joins in, and this is a really good surge now from the Dark Blues. Cambridge bodies on the wrong side. They're to within a couple of metres, looking for another try. This time it's up the jumper. They're still going, Oxford. Yes. They're up to the line, they're over. Real power from Oxford. And they drive Cambridge over, and the body language tells you that Oxford really have momentum in the varsity now.
Well, it was well constructed. Not only did Robson play a vital supporting role, but so did Alistair King. Got the ball to the back, effectively sealing off. And when the momentum came, managed to keep it straight, managed to get players back in and around to isolate the ball. Thought at one point it was there that they might fail, but it effectively got the phalanx there in front. And at that point, had Cambridge dropped it, it would probably have been a penalty try. If you're going to drop one of those, you want to do it early.
But Charlie Pozniak, the blindside for Oxford, credited with the score, but a forward team effort there. And this to extend the lead out to 8 points, which in a varsity match, which is so often attritional, would be a real buffer. Humberston to add the extras.
Yes.
He kicked a beauty at the end of the half, and he's kicked another beauty now.
And you also have to say, Chris, given the paucity of really effective chances that Cambridge created in the first half for tries, that going beyond a converted try is very significant within this game.
Well, they've scored 14 points in about 5 minutes, either side of half-time. And
That's
how
too far.
Crucial will those two scores be? First, the backs through Dan Barley, then the forwards through Charlie Posniak, and both converted splendidly by Humberston. Has meant that for all of the accomplished Cambridge play in that first half, for all the work of this man Costa, it's Oxford who have a deep foothold in this game now.
Cambridge's best attacks came from the drives of forwards and short play in and around the breakdown with offloads.
Another good box kick from Bell, and for once Ransom spills it. And it's taken by Cambridge, and they might have numbers here. Can they use it? Wide ball out to Story. He goes back inside. Just couldn't link, could King. But an opening for Cambridge, and it all came from that kicking game of Chris Bell's. Good bust there from McCallum. Good response this from Cambridge to those two quick-fire Oxford scores. Phillips finds Eriksson.
They are open play.
They were men to the right, and Oxford have turned the ball over at a pivotal juncture. And Oxford will no doubt look to just take the sting out of that Cambridge wave of attack. Ball out, says referee Owens, but Tressida with another good box kick. The standard of box kick has been high in this game, and Stileman has gone up to take that. And Tressida knows that no one's in the backfield, and that's a beautifully weighted kick from the Oxford 9. And just like that, players gone all the way back, deep into Cambridge territory. And Stileman will now have a chance to link with Ben Ransom. Ransom with Twickenham turf to gallop into. He goes right now, comes left. Game just starting maybe to open up here at Twickenham. Norris is lined up on the halfway line, but retains possession. That's clearly out. And so Cambridge can play this quite rightfully. And Oxford are offside.
Yes. Ball is out. Ball is out. Beyond the rack. Let it go.
There's been a lot of trouble in the Autumns about that one. When is the ball out? When is it not? If it's completely beyond the back foot, it is out.
Beyond the foot, and you're calling players in afterwards. I told you before, the ball is out.
That's miles out. And Cambridge know it. Referee Nigel Owens told them. And then the Oxford man is in front. And that's why the penalty's been given. And that's why Cambridge are able to go into the Oxford 22. And there's been a cracking start to this second half. The Oxford tried, but Cambridge have responded straight away. They have to. It's now or never.
And irrespective of the number of mistakes made, this has been an entertaining game.
And Cambridge have solid set-piece ball now at the line-out.
Stay behind.
It's too linear, it's too long, that drive.
Now a little bit of traction.
Front, the ball carrier.
Next stoppage we use.
Referee Owens tells Chris Bell to use it if it stops, but it has been going forward slowly and steadily. Cambridge saying to Oxford, whatever you can do, we can match. After Oxford's rollover try, and Cambridge are still going. Oxford have stopped it for now, and it might even
want
be.
To turn that over.
Yeah,
Turned it over.
They have. Good spot, Brian, and it's not been used by Cambridge.
The other reason that didn't work, when I say it's too linear, it's all right if you keep the ball 2 or 3 back with men in a row with spines in line, parallel to the touchline, but you've got to have the effective wall of 2 or 3 players in front. Once you're effectively driving in single file, when you meet 2 or 3 defenders who are together, the momentum stops.
Emerged, and then you were calling people in afterwards. That ball is out. You cannot then reform afterwards. Okay?
I just didn't notice.
You're behind Heimer's foot.
Yeah, that's fair.
Well, George Robson, one of those.
See when you're driving here, you've got Spine in line there, but you've effectively only got 2 people in front, so the momentum and the force is all going through one player. If you've got more people in front, if you've got a wider base, much more power is put through.
Well, George Robson was part of that Oxford defensive effort. He's been getting some treatment, and it might be that's the end of George Robson's afternoon.
Is this set board, lads? Send him on then. Number 5 is coming off.
HIA, I don't know.
Yeah, it looks like it'll be an HIA rather than him being permanently removed, unless he's just being replaced for the afternoon. So we'll wait and see as George Ward comes on.
Yes,
well, he's getting on a bit now, isn't he?
Yeah, 50 minutes for a 33-year-old's decent effort.
Standards, lads, please.
But it's now a very young Oxford pack. A lot of undergraduates, a lot of players under the age of 21, 22.
You've got to say the Cambridge back row have done very well. They've probably outplayed their opposite numbers, but very much been the only real penetrative unit within the Cambridge team, and that's been the problem.
Set! Hold it there, keep it up, hold it there, keep it up. Keep it up, lads.
Cambridge looking to get a nudge on against the head. It's back on Oxford's side belatedly.
On the shoulder,
and
on the shoulder,
Ward decides
on
just
the
to set the
play
ball
on.
up, go route one, and bring a little bit of security to proceedings. Oxford still with this 8-point lead with half an hour left of the Varsity. After those 2 tries in rapid succession.
Ball is out!
Tressiter again playing with fire at the back of the ruck, but he gets the kick away neatly in the end.
Well, twice in a row he seemed to be in trouble and has found a way out.
And that's the man he's been learning from over the past few weeks. Richard Wigglesworth just signed a new contract at Saracens today. He'll still be going strong.
Not a bad player, really.
At the age of 37 next year. He is a class act, is Wigglesworth, back in the England setup and targeting next year's World Cup. Worn out the replacement as Oxford go to the skies. Bit of a tester for Gators, but he takes it. And has he got the pace to evade Conor Kern's? Not quite. Kern's, who's in his 3rd Varsity, he's lost the first 2, but he's half an hour away from banishing those memories with another Oxford victory after they went 6 in a row. It's been Cambridge for the last couple of years. Oxford have come through, but referee Nigel Owens not happy. Counter-rucking judged illegal by the Welsh referee.
Can't kick it out to the ruck, lads.
And a penalty for Cambridge.
Strike it back.
And bearing in mind the fact that Oxford have the lead done, it was kicking ball out of the ruck there. But obviously bright man and obviously dull penalty, actually. The point I want to make, you know, they are 8 points up. They are in Cambridge territory. Don't need to take any chances. Don't need to put the foot in there. Don't need to keep the hand in there. Let them have the ball. They haven't looked like scoring.
Well, next score could be very, very important. As Cambridge claim the line out and look to a game work there. Rolling maul. Once, says referee Owens, so the next time it stops, they have to use it, and Bell does use it. Centre Hennessy, stopped hard on the gain line by Wooldock. Oxford sensing they're on the verge of a season-defining, in some cases maybe career-defining victory. As the Cambridge forwards, this time William John Dean, carry it up. But Oxford will be happy with this, just putting trust in their defensive set as Cambridge attack around the halfway line. So Phillips looks crossfield again. This one's for Story, and it's come off Cambridge first.
See what
then
they do.
Off Oxford, but
you have to question that tactic
knock on, I think,
at this stage of the game, at that point on the pitch, because what happens if he catches the ball, recovers it, still got 40 yards to go, still got men around him. You put it in the corner when you're in the 22 and he catches it, you can fall over the line, different matter. But what advantage really is he going to get?
Well, Nick Costa's been been bleeding pretty much all 53 minutes of this game, and
Blood on, lads,
I think this time Nigel Owen said he's got to go and get it properly fixed. On comes Ollie Smart in place of the...
So there are other things that are hampering Cambridge. When you take a line-out ball, as they did there, and go to drive, if you don't make any ground, you've got effectively 8 forwards in there. You haven't tied the 8 forwards from Oxford in because you've got the pillar and the guard. So when the ball goes out, they've got 2 extra defenders. And you've got no options left, rather, other than to kick, really.
So Smart on for his captain, Costa, who I'm sure will be patched up and returning to the fray if judged medically appropriate, because he's been one of the leading lights in this Cambridge side, and they'll need him in the final 27 minutes of the Varsity. Oxford with this 8-point lead. As Cambridge prepare to feed the scrum through Bell. And do you think, Brian, with them trailing by 8, we might have to see Cambridge throwing a little bit of caution to the wind, because they've been relying so much on Bell's kicking up to now?
A little bit. You've still got 27 minutes to go, though, so don't need to. The problem is this: whilst they've been making ground from through the initial tackle and from offloads in and around the breakdown, thereafter what's come as options have been completely ineffective. So if they can't do that this half, and Costa has been their main weapon, then they've effectively got no real threat at the moment.
A bit of space cross-field as Phillips goes to the right looking for Baines, and he finds his right winger. Back inside it goes to Gatiss. Does he keep that in field? Not quite. So the cross-field kick being used a few times by Mike Phillips, the Cambridge fly half. This time it went to hand, but Gatiss forced out of play.
But again, you look at this, and what is going to happen if he catches that ball? He's got a man immediately on him. There are several, about 7 actually, Oxford defenders who are flooding across.
Bosniak, the try scorer, with the good work at the line out. And another box kick. Backwards, said the referee from Baines, so Cambridge still in possession. But another good contestable kick from Tressida. Both scrum halves have kicked well today.
Hughes.
And another kick from Bell. This one a tiny bit too far. Ransom takes it and tries to skip past the on-rushing Leonard, but it's safely in Oxford possession through Tressida. George Wall, the replacement, who's come on for Robson in that second row. Oxford looking just to keep the ball in the hands. Ben Parker, the 21-year-old. Brasenose College on his debut, the loose head prop. And again, Tressida is going to look to kick, stretching that ruck back, and he clears his lines. What can Cambridge do with this counter-attacking position? Gatiss, tackled by Stahlman. Is that turned over by Oxford? Very nearly, but still with the light blues, who trail by 8 in the Varsity. Leonard again, the Welshman. But Oxford defence pretty solid, forcing Bell into another kick. Taken by opposite number Tressida, hit hard in the tackle. Ollie Smart was in there, the back row forward on for Costa. Good bust coming in from Miller over the halfway line, and lightning fast ball for Tressida. A bit deep behind the goal line is Humberston, but he looks to kick. Pretty nicely weighted. Back goes Phillips. Old-fashioned spiral, don't see many of them. And he's made his touch, but it's in Oxford possession inside the Cambridge half.
Well, some people might criticise Humberston for taking that option when there were men outside him, but the tactical options now for Oxford are very simple. They've got a lead which is above a converted try, provided they play in the right areas of the field. Ask Cambridge to do their work from long range. They don't have to do much more.
It's Ryan Jones over the ball for Oxford, and Joey Gatiss, the young man, just 18 on his varsity debut. That looks an injury that will end his afternoon.
No problem. Yeah, inventive sling, isn't it? And Oxford are playing the game tactically correctly, because Cambridge keep finding themselves deep in their own half when they do get possession.
Yeah.
And unlike the Oxford back three, they don't seem thus far to have the potency to really damage Oxford, whose chasing defence has been reasonably competent. It's been reasonably flat.
Oxford, step off, please. Cambridge, step off.
Well, Oliver Node has come on, it looks like, for Joey Gatiss. And Cambridge again win a line out. And they need to get stuck into the Oxford set piece if they're going to work their way back into this game. And Cambridge possession deep in their own half, and Bell's look to pop these into the sky all day, and he'll do exactly the same. Another nicely weighted box kick from Chris Bell. Well taken though from Ransom, and he makes a break as well. Look at that footwork from Ransom. Quality from the former Saracen. And now Oxford might have numbers over to the left. Humberston, can they go wide? Waldock, Kearns. Over to Stileman on the far side, looking for his first varsity try, Tom Stileman. But Oxford probing. They could kill off the varsity here perhaps, as Jones carries into the 22. Miller had an option in King, but he drives on Sam Miller. Good ball for Tressida. Humberston, the fly half. Lovely angle. Ransom, he's almost through. Just chopped down before he made a telling incision. Carry around the corner from Morris. Oxford just starting to cook with gas now. Humberston. Deep to Waldock. Lovely hands. Stileman. Tom Stileman. Still Stileman. And he does have his first varsity try. And how important could it be as well?
Well, I think that's game over. So you have to say, at the moment, Ben Ransom is a clear favourite for being named as man of the match. Not only for his work under the high ball, but principally for the way he's made ground in improbable positions and runs like this. So he's drifting towards the touchline, just step inside, and that kept the move alive. In contrast, you've seen a couple of Cambridge wide runners just get pulled into touch. Well, that's poor tackling, but effectively created by the Oxford fullback.
Yeah, fourth varsity for Tom Stileman. 15, 16, 17, now 18. And look what it means to him.
Thanks.
And Oxford are now well clear on the hour mark. And can Humberston just start to twist the knife a little bit? He's kicked a couple from the right-hand touchline. This is from the left. Oh, is that shaping in as well? Oh, yes, it is. Classy stuff from Tom Humberston. He's kicking all his goals. And Oxford's lead is now an extremely healthy 15 points.
And you also see, because there were forwards in that defensive line, it wasn't flat.
Same way again. So they're behind you,
which effectively gives target points for runners, both inside and out.
And Stileman is buzzing, and he claims the restart and drives outside the 22. What have Cambridge got then? What do they have in response? They were 9-3 up, but it's been an Oxford onslaught since just before the half. They've scored 3 tries through Barley, Pozniak and Stileman, and they're in complete control of the varsity now into the final quarter.
And actually, another point, the success that Cambridge had early on, if you reflect on it, was largely caused by the fact that Oxford, Stileman included, and Ransom included, didn't quite deal with the Cambridge kicking game as well as they could, and now they are more solid under it. Cambridge aren't getting any profit from even that.
Cambridge in desperate need of a response. That's the hooker. But Oxford, you can see in their body language, they are on the verge of varsity glory. Again, Bell with the box kick. But again, Ransom equal to it. And there was his brilliant attack which set up that last try.
Hands away now! Hands away! Matt, go right! Matt, go right! No, stay behind!
There ought to be a time limit on doing this.
Yeah, it's tedious, isn't it? As Tressida takes all the time in the world to clear his lines.
It was touched as well.
Yeah, up goes Stileman. And he's not only made the tackle, but he's looking to steal the ball as well. But still, with Cambridge, they've got to put some tempo in this game now, Cambridge. They need 3 scores.
Counter-ruck is good. Okay, boys, up we get, please. Thank you.
Driven on by Cambridge.
Assist release.
As Oxford's defence stays strong. Ransom again. How many times, Brian, has he taken those 50-50 balls and turned them into attacking opportunities for Oxford? Tressida again. This time he will look to his fly half. Humberston, who does the kicking.
Okay, 13 is off.
Dropping a little bit in no man's land. Phillips is melted by Kearns. And Oxford looking to pour forward as well, but it's in Cambridge possession.
He did well to retain that.
Didn't he just? There's Cambridge through Costa, who's got a new shirt on. And he now links with Oliver Node in the number 22 jersey. Cambridge trying to put some pace on the ball through Leonard, but Oxford will feel happy about life with this 15-point lead. There might be numbers, though, over to the far side. Phillips finds King. Costa again, desperately trying to haul his side back into the varsity. He's carried heroically, but at the moment in vain. Bell will kick. They keep peppering Ransom, and he keeps taking them. And he's gone again, Ransom. Look at that pace from Ransom. He's chipped ahead. This could be one of the great varsity tries from Ransom. Just hauled down, and he tried to pass inside and went into a Cambridge man. And Nigel Owens has his arm out for an advantage. Penalty advantage as well. They go quickly through Tressida, but Nigel Owens needs to have a word with the Cambridge players, no doubt.
You were in the contact area, offside, prevented that in a line break.
Well, it's all going Oxford's way, Brian. Mike Phillips into the bin after that just scintillating Ransom break.
Number 10.
Well, if it was a difficult task, it now looks almost impossible for Cambridge. You would expect Oxford, I would put this in the corner and grind it.
Okay. Subs, boys, please. 1, 4 and 3, you said? 1, 2 and 3.
Changes up front for Cambridge. Schussman, Summerson, Dixon, a whole front row change for the light blues. They need some fresh ideas and some fresh bodies. Oxford have a big lead and a man advantage, and they're 5 metres out.
Well, you can't fault the Cambridge endeavour, you can't fault their effort levels. You can fault their tactical options, but theirs have been dictated by circumstance and talent, actually.
Well, Oxford eventually regain it from the line out. It was a mess, but they still have it through Pozniak. What options do they have, the dark blues? Joe Morris offers himself as a willing carrier. Only 10 metres out, Humberston. Nice ball, Waldock to Ransom. He deserves a try, but he puts it on a plate instead for Barley. And it's turning into an Oxford rout.
was in a position to see the ball when it happened.
Well, they were man up and they have the tactical nous to know how to make that advantage pay.
Walking back here. I was happy that
it'll be a long last 15 minutes now for Cambridge. One of the problems from Cambridge's point of view for Chris Bell is this: haven't got into this game, haven't had momentum, yet they find themselves continually in their own half. So he thinks, well, look, we better kick the ball, play out of here, because effectively, when you've got someone receiving as well as Ransom has done, as well as Stallman has done, you're effectively just turning the ball over, which means you don't get any momentum.
I mean, the kicks aren't bad, but Ransom's been equal to all of them, and this is him just putting it on a plate for Barley. And if Barley had to finish well for his try in the first half, that was far more straightforward. A fourth try for Oxford, and as you say, Brian, it could be a pretty dispiriting final quarter of an hour for the light blues, but a glorious one for the dark blues. Cambridge have won the last two varsities, but this one is surely going back to Oxford, who of course had that crushing run of 6 victories in a row. Humberston's kick, has he got this one as well? He can't miss, and Oxford bring up 30.
And if Ben Ransom went off now, you could still give him the man of the match.
Oh, you're choosing it, so...
No, I don't think I am. I hate choosing man of the match.
Okay.
Unless it's quite obvious, which it is at the moment.
Yeah, there's no controversy. Yeah, there's no doubt that Ransom has been one of the stand-up players, if not the stand-up player. Stallman's been pretty good as well, and he takes the restart.
Let's go.
Hughes!
I think Alistair Hignall's.
Yes, Alistair Hignall is.
Cambridge.
I think you chose it last year, but normally it's Hickey, and he's here today, and the Alistair Hignall medal will be going to a dark blue through gritted Hickey teeth, probably. But as a former fullback, he would have really appreciated what Ben Ransom's been up to. And I wonder if any Premiership clubs are thinking, when he's done his work at Oxford, they could get him back involved. He certainly doesn't look like he's washed up in any shape or form. He's been magnificent. Another kick from Bell, another take from Ransom.
You would think at some point someone would say, look, this isn't working. Can we try something different?
Away, move, right!
Well, it's a non-negotiable that Cambridge have to score next. Even if they do, they've got a long way back. They do have the penalty as Oxford infringe the ruck, and Bell's gone quickly, and just symptomatic of it not going Cambridge's way. He's been
not taken
back
from the mark. No problem with doing that, but referee's got to have made the mark.
Too far in front over there, okay?
They'll give you about a yard leeway. But it's within a yard of where they would have given it, you'd probably get away with it. Absolutely vital that Cambridge score from here, and it's got to be a try as well.
Well, this is the best territory they've had in this second half. Up goes Eriksson. Good-looking Cambridge ball, much better up to the line.
Yes, I would think so.
And they're over.
Before you ripped it.
Well, its try's been given.
Down before you ripped.
The ball was over the line, says referee Owens. Then Oxford scooped it up, but it was a good, strong rolling ball from the Light Blues. James Shanahan cutting a frustrated figure, but they're back in it, and if it's gone to Nick Costa, there's no more deserving man in light blue.
No, and you feel, even though Costa is likely to be on the losing side, he has striven manfully, shows endeavour, shows spirit in the way they've come back here, shows technical ability. People think it's just brute strength. It isn't. Well worked. Probably all going to be in vain, but
say again? Okay, thank you.
Well, scrum half Bell is kicking because Phillips is in the sin bin, and he's judged that to perfection. So do Cambridge have a late rally in them? 31 points to 16 rather. They're still down to 14 with Phillips in the bin, but they had to score and they did.
Well, although some of the players have not been anywhere near an international standard, the goal kicking has.
Hasn't it just? Humberston, Phillips, Bell lumping them over from everywhere.
10 gone.
And Cambridge score their first points in the second half. It's taken them half an hour, and that's part of the reason why they're trailing so heavily on the scoreboard. But just a sign there that the light blues, and especially this man, Nick Costa, aren't going to give up their Varsity trophy with a whimper. Costa again. Bleeding for the Cambridge cause, the light blue skipper.
It means Cambridge need 3 converted tries now. Well, they certainly need 2 and another score.
Ransom takes it in, regally as ever. Humberston to the industrious Sam Miller. Had a good game, the 20-year-old. Been part of the Wasps Academy. Good footwork by Humberston, former Loughborough University fly half. Tressida digging for the ball, part of a cohort of Oxford players with Premiership experience. Another one is Waldock, another one is Ransom, and he makes the break. And he finds Barley, who's looking for a hat-trick. He goes back inside to Tressida. Tressida now offloads to Kearns. It's champagne stuff from Oxford at Twickenham. There are numbers over if they can move it. Miller is caught by Costa. Try-saving hit by the Cambridge captain, but still numbers to the right for Oxford. Tressida, Humberston, Waldock's on the dummy. Stileman steps inside. Still Tom Stileman. Just couldn't flip it away to Ryan Jones. They come right again through Humberston, who scores. And Oxford are finishing with a flourish.
Well, Cambridge still down to 14 men, 2 minutes to go, and whilst they've got 7 points back, they've conceded 14, which is the usual spread, 7 points difference when you go a man down. May not seem much, but the advantage of just having the extra man counts over. See the break there? The fact that he's carrying the ball in 2 hands means a safe offload, means he's got all options available to him.
Yeah, Humberston fancied that one, didn't he? Tressida was at scrum half, and he got in the way.
You scored, didn't you?
And he picked it up, and over he goes. Good build-up from all the Oxford backs. Conor Kern's prominent, his 3rd varsity. He was resigned to not playing in another one, but decided quite late on to give it a crack, see if he could end his run of 2 losses, and he's going to be in a winning team, and a convincing winning team at that. Can the try scorer Humberston tag on his 2 to his try? He's kicked everything in sight, and that's another one. Glorious stuff from Tom Humberston, who converts his own try, and Oxford are romping clear with just 5 minutes to go.
Allowed to make 1 movement to reach out.
And James Wade, who won his first 5 varsities, lost his last 2, he's back to winning ways, the Oxford head coach. And I think Oxford really, Brian, are throwing down the gauntlet ahead of next year. They've put in some high-quality players and said to Cambridge, what have you got? As Tressida finds Morris in his 2nd varsity, the 20-year-old. On the Worcester books, Joe Morris, so another player with professional experience.
Ball is out!
As Cambridge make a change at scrum half with Charlie Saunders coming on for Chris Bell. The effervescent, ever-working Costa takes it, but he's turned over. War comes away with it, but he's holding on. Penalty Cambridge.
And those are the sort of mistakes that are made when players are tired.
Over the ball.
Inadvertently, you know, being clumsy in and around with the feet.
Wait. Time out.
Well, the man of the match has been chosen by Alistair Hignell, and a former
12, you said, is it?
England international and a BBC commentator of some repute. Obviously knows his stuff, and he has gone, Brian, for Ben Ransom, who wins the Alistair Hignell medal and is man of the match.
I would think one of his easier decisions, actually.
Yeah, I don't think. I think over the years, Higgy may have had some tough borderline calls, but
not just because of the way that he's fielded the ball, apart from a couple early on with security, but the fact that he's managed to skip out of improbable situations, make ground, and then in open play has been a very incisive runner and distributor.
4 and a bit minutes left in the Varsity. Can Cambridge finish on top, even if they're going to end up on the wrong side of the scoreline?
Not held.
When you're seeing your problems from tired players, but also, you know, players who are not quite of, you know, first-class standard, passes are going just slightly too high, so receivers are having to jump. Effectively, all momentum is stopped.
Well, replacements being made by James Shanahan. Rory Trinnaman is on in the back line for Cambridge. Trinnaman in his third Varsity, hero in 2016 when Cambridge won to end Oxford's grip on the trophy. But he's going to be on the losing side this time.
And if you ask what might Cambridge have done differently, the tactic of picking and driving close to the breakdown has been one which is still being successful. Maybe they could have done a bit more than that.
Just in case.
The problem was always going to be that the Oxford backs are actually better.
Okay? Time out.
And quite a bit better.
Let me know when everything's okay.
Oxford player getting some treatment. Can't quite see who it is from here. But referee Nigel Owen stopping the play just to make sure that the right medical treatment is provided, as no doubt it will be. And there's Ben Ransom, Brian, who's been
outstanding.
Outstanding, a real standout, yeah.
Well, 21,000. I think that the PR people and the organisers, well, this is just one example of what he's done today. Almost made a try for himself, but there are many other examples. You know, not so long ago, the Army and Navy game was dying, basically. And what they did, you know, they said each regiment will have a bar either in this ground or a pub nearby, so that if you want to meet your mates once a year and you can't be bothered to organise it, they will be there at that time. Loads of people came, then loads of people came to the game as well, and the crowds have gone up and up, and it's a fantastic event that people want to come to now. They could and should do the same here. Each college has different meeting place where once a year, you know, former colleagues will be there. Without having to contact everybody, without having to organise things.
So Sam Miller it is, the Oxford open side. He's been another
Miller had a good game.
Fantastic game as well, yeah.
He was the one player in the Oxford back row that actually matched his opposite number. By and large, the three Cambridge back rowers were on top, particularly, obviously,
yeah,
Nick Costa.
Last will be their ball, okay?
Well, quite rightfully, the officials and the medics taking their time to make sure that Sam Miller is treated correctly. They'll take their time, and the stretcher is on, and let's just hope he's okay, because he's had a good game. And Oxford, as a side, have played magnificently well, especially in the second half. He is moving his arms, which is
a good sign.
A positive sign, yeah. And let's hope it's just a precautionary move to put him on the stretcher as we tick into the final few minutes.
And it's a shame we've had to have this break. No one's complaining about it, because this has been a good varsity match of a good standard, been entertaining. And for the players involved, you were talking about the occasion. People like Robson have won finals here and so on, but these players focus on this one fixture a year. It is their final. They do all that work. It's a very heavy training programme. And of course, if you lose, and you lose in the way that Cambridge have lost, no dishonour, but awfully disappointing.
I think it'll be easier for Cambridge to swallow, given that they have been cut apart by some class. Here's the first try, Ransom out to Barley, and there's little bits of magic that Ransom, for example, Wardock as well, have really cut Cambridge apart, as well as this forward effort that led to the Pozniak try.
That was an important try, actually, because it was forward-based when they'd been under a bit of pressure, and also it opened up the first lead, from which the tactical options for them were made far simpler. And then, of course, when they went a man down, Cambridge, they were always going to be in difficulty. And Oxford had the ability and the intelligence to make that pay. They had man advantage.
Well, this is the final try for Oxford. Strong carry as ever from Stallman. And then Humberston, who's conducted affairs with aplomb for Oxford, he stretches to score, and he's kicked all the goals as well.
Well, we ought to mention that. I was just going to mention that. You led me into it. The reflection of the score, you're not scoring in 5s and set, you're scoring in 7s. Outstanding goal kicking from both sides, actually.
Well, George Robson and Ben Ransom there. Both no strangers to Twickenham, no strangers to big games, but this will mean a lot. This really will. The two men who, certainly in Robson's case, have parked their professional career. And that's a good sign, Brian. We've got Sam Miller putting his hand and arm in the air to tell his friends and family he's okay.
You can't take any chances with these things. Just one of the celebrations. Outside, it was looking at half-time, there was drink responsibly. Advice from the RFU, which includes pacing yourself and also having a soft drink every time you have an alcoholic one. I don't know if whiskey chasers count as soft drinks, but
I'm not sure whether Oxford will heed that advice.
I doubt it.
after the game. Right, 3.5 minutes left at Twickenham. Replacement scrum half Saunders, who's on for Bell, feeds the Cambridge scrum. Costa goes blind, but wary legs from the Cambridge captain, who's worked himself into the ground.
Actually, Jones did very well there because he spotted that run early.
And will Oxford, Brian, want to make sure they don't end the game behind their own posts? If
yes,
they can,
of course it will.
Yeah, shut Cambridge out as they look cross-field. King was after it, but neatly taken by Dan Barley, who's scored 2 tries today, and he calls the mark.
Well, you called it. Yeah, you go.
Well, Joe Story, the Cambridge left winger, we had a tweak there. I don't know how he feels.
That's Conor Kern, who has moved from fly half to outside centre in his 3rd varsity. And he's had a tidy game, and all the Oxford backs actually
that's 3 yards
have been able to slice Cambridge apart, and the Cambridge line-out looking a little bit wary as well. And it'll be a scrum to Oxford for...
a bit too far up, boys.
Yeah. Nigel is saying there, isn't he, that a bit too far out. He was going to let a little bit go, but nothing too blatant.
He hasn't come in with a line which I've heard him say several times, that I'm straighter than that.
But he was had a quip earlier saying, "Don't call me sir, I'm from West Wales." So you're going to get a quipper game, aren't you, from Nigel Owens?
You are.
And he's added to the occasion, of course. You know, the fact that he's in the middle of a European programme. He's got Racing 92 against Leicester in Paris on Sunday, but he's doing the varsity before preparing for that. Shows that he holds this game in high esteem. Good Cambridge scrum illegally, though. They've wheeled it, driven on the angle, and Oxford will be able to finish inside Cambridge territory and maybe really try and drive the foot down on the throat.
Square, running around.
Really not sure about that one, but doesn't matter either way. Coming into the last minute and a half. You see Alistair King there, the replacement prop. He came on very early, of course. He's played a full part, especially in the minutiae and the way in which the second Oxford try from the line-out was constructed along with Robson. And I apologise for calling him Jonathan Dixon.
So Parker, the Oxford loosehead, who's been throwing since John Aaron Henry went off early, and King coming on, as you were saying there, Brian. So Parker's had to throw into the line now, which maybe has contributed to it not being absolutely perfect from Oxford, but he does find his man at the tail there.
He's done better than a lot of props would do, I'm telling you.
Absolutely.
And actually, when you consider what Malcolm Marks had to contend with, just occasionally some hookers.
Yeah, even one of the best hookers in the world. It's not the easiest start at all. Cambridge do manage to win it from the line out after all that, and can they?
Oh, I wonder what that.
Can they go from deep? As we move into the final 15 seconds at Twickenham. Noel Nord making the tackle, the replacement hooker who's on. The 28-year-old South African knocked forward by Cambridge. Henry Summers there with a tired fumble, and they're offside as well.
That's twice he's running and done that.
Sit. What are you doing? No, you don't clear out like that, do you? Off you go.
That was Andrew Hunter with a clear out.
Number 5.
And Archie Evans just said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Trying to clear out." He said,
Yeah,
"You
well,
don't clear out like that."
He did that the ruck before as well.
Tap it first.
Well, Oxford decide that they want to start their celebrations now, and why not? Belted into the stands by Tom Humberston, and it's been a resounding performance from Oxford. 9-3 down, but after that try at the end of the first half from Barley, they've not looked back. They've scored 5 in all, and they're deserving winners of the Varsity. After 2 years in light blue possession, it's back with the dark blues, Brian Moore.
Deserved winners of an entertaining game. Effectively, more options. Once they got to grips with the Cambridge kicking game, once they got enough ball, then their backs were far more potent. Ben Ransom, an absolutely outstanding game, both in defence and attack. Cambridge can have no complaints.
Yeah, real statement from the Dark Blues. They are Varsity winners once more. Oxford have thrashed Cambridge here by 38 points to 16, John.
Well, for the neutral, that was a hugely entertaining second half, and just as a side note, if you like, if Tom Humberston had kicked a penalty with that last opportunity at the end, instead of hacking the ball out of play, he would have established an all-time record for point scoring in the history of the Varsity match, going back 130-odd years. I'm sure it was the last thing on his mind at the time, but it might be in his mind a bit later on when somebody tells him. Meanwhile, Damien Hopley and Ben Ryan here. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, extraordinary second half. We talked about the Oxford backs having real firepower, and they just came through in that second half, found momentum, and suddenly just tore the Cambridge side apart. And a thoroughly well-deserved victory for the Dark Blues. They played extremely well in that second half.
Yeah, echo those thoughts of Hopper's, really. You know, we said at half-time that if Cambridge could control that Oxford backline, well, they couldn't, and they just had too much class in that backline. James Gaunt, the coach of the Oxford Uni side, the backline with Richard Wigglesworth as well, have done a fantastic job.
Well, real class was no better exemplified than by the man of the match, and he's with Sarah.
Yes, I'm delighted to say I'm joined by Ben Ransom now. Huge congratulations to you. What's it like being out there on a winning Varsity team?
Yeah, it's an unreal feeling. The boys really worked hard this year. It was a tough first 20 minutes, to be fair. Cambridge came flying at us. Good job to get that try just before half-time, but yeah, great work to the guys.
Some of your footwork was absolutely delightful out there, but what was your first Varsity experience like?
Yeah, I was actually a bit surprised, actually. It was very, very heated in the first half. To be fair, Cambridge, they came out flying. I was a bit like, okay, fair enough, this is what Varsity is about. But I think we built into the game well, and then second half, we scored some nice tries.
Well, before we actually present you with the winner's medal, we've also got your captain here with us as well, Don Waldock. Congratulations, back to winning ways for the Dark Blues.
That's it, yeah, two years without the trophy. It was sorely missed, and I think outstanding effort from the group. It's a special group of players, and we needed to put in a special performance today.
What happened in the first half early on? Because everything seemed to change very quickly, particularly in the last 50.
Well, Cambridge are a top team, and they put us under a lot of pressure. I think in these big games, it's about how you cope with that pressure, and we weathered the storm. We got that score just before half-time, which was huge for us. And then in the second half, we just built on that. So yeah, I mean, you're always going to receive pressure from a top team.
We wish you all congratulations, but we do have to give a moment to this man now. Ben Ransom, congratulations. You are the player of the match. I want to hand over to Alistair Hignell to present you with the medal. And
great to see Higgy here, and one fullback to another. And Alistair would have been very proud of the kind of performance that Ben Ransom put in this afternoon. Interesting that both those players, though, alluded to the try just before half-time, because up until that point, it was anybody's game. You know, Cambridge were leading, and then this happened.
Well, it was a very well-worked field position, and suddenly some good execution under pressure, and it was Ben Ransom who took a fantastic angle, got on the outside of the Cambridge defence, had Dan Barley outside him, and Dan Barley really impressed all game. They linked very well as a back three with Starman as well, but it really was Ransom who made this score and really set his mark on the game, as was going to happen in the second half.
Interesting point that Chris and Brian made in commentary about Oxford having lost a couple of games, making a concerted effort to get a couple of seasoned internationals, or if not internationals, Premiership players in to boost the quality of the squad and to give a bit of experience, a bit of nous. When you've lost a match like this, and you know about the rivalry between these two universities, when Cambridge have taken a bit of a drubbing like that, are there going to be meetings where they say, right, we're going to have to get a couple of comparable players in next year?
Do you know, that's exactly what happens, and we'll have emails that will probably drop into our inboxes as ex-Blues asking for a full review on all of this. And you know, the postgrads made a big difference to the teams today. You can't really get away from that. Quality professionals that get airlifted into this environment, and they add value. And Cambridge will be looking to do something similar next season.
I think it also proves there's life beyond professional rugby. So actually seeing a lot of the postgrads coming back, Ben Ransom, George Robson, Don Walder, Charlie Ainsbury last year, they really come into this environment and thrive and really enjoy it, because it's probably a bit less full-time and full-on than professional rugby, which is great to see.
Well, we've had two matches here in the last 5 days, which you could say there was a question mark over. The Barbarians-Argentina game here last Saturday, which was hugely entertaining, and one with a last-minute drop goal. And that second half was terrific. I mean, on a pretty grisly Thursday afternoon in December, people sitting at home watching that would have really enjoyed it. So there is life beyond the international arena.
Well, there is, and 99+% of the game is played by amateurs, enjoyed by amateurs week in, week out. I think sometimes we can get very sucked in by the sort of professional goings-on and the politics of the sport. What we saw today was 46 guys going hammer and tongs. Before that, 46 girls going and enjoying the game and their day out to Twickenham, which is what it's all about, really.
Obviously, we had an injury towards the end of that second half, which delayed the match considerably. We were hoping to have a chat with Nigel Owens, who refereed the game in his usual inimitable fashion, but I don't think we're going to have time for that. But he actually contributed to the game as well, didn't he?
He does, and the fact that he put his hand up and wanted to do this, and he's got a big European Cup game at the weekend, shows that this still holds some prestige in the rugby calendar. And as Damien said, it's not just about the professionals at the top of the game. And I keep looking around, I've said it already, that there are tons of school kids here that will have had a brilliant time at HQ, and they'll go away and they'll have rugby in their head, and hopefully will be on this field in years to come.
Well, we're just waiting for the presentation, and Don Waldock will at any moment. He's got his tankard there. Obviously worth saying that the next rugby we have for you here on BBC Television is in a few weeks' time, when the Six Nations will begin, and we will start in Stade de France on Friday, February the 1st, on a Friday night when France play Wales. And interesting to hear Sir Gareth Edwards saying yesterday that he thinks Wales not only might actually win the Six Nations, he thinks they might win the World Cup next year. So anyway, what a fantastic rugby year it's going to be in 2019, and that's a great way to round off 2018. So if we don't see you between now and then, have a great Christmas. From all of us, bye-bye.
Hold it. Hold it. Change one.